Hi friends, I hope you're well this week. So today I'd like to share my thoughts on vintage versus current models and pre-owned versus new retail bags. So recently, you know that I've purchased this vintage Kelly. I posted an unboxing for it and I can link that video below. It's about a month since I've gotten this bag and I'd like to finally cut the tags off with you. Yay! This bag is officially mine. I've been a little on a busy schedule lately and I haven't had the time yet to take it to the Hermes store to have it cleaned up. But I will eventually, and then I will definitely post about it as well, my experiences and what the suggestions are to clean this bag up. So as previously mentioned in my unboxing video, major reasons I bought this bag is due to its vintage charms. One being it's in Coachable leather, which is an older version of what's now the Epsom leather. It just feels like owning something that belongs within the Hermes historical leather library, as they do discontinue leathers occasionally. Another is the shape. I find the vintage design to be less tapered than the current version, and you get a kind of boxier feel to this. I still would love the current version. Hopefully that's going to happen sometime in the future. So Birkin and Kelly's are usually priced over retail for vintage and pre-owned finds. You know, this can sometimes be part of the decision making when trying to look for a pre-owned or a vintage piece versus something that you may be offered at retail. But some of the combinations are simply difficult to attain, so it can be helpful to be able to source it through vintage or the pre-loved market. Although sometimes I do feel that if you are flexible, you may be able to score something in a great condition, size, hardware, and color. It kind of depends on how you sort out your priorities. And for vintage, other than having quirks to the condition, the design may slightly differ as well. For my personal opinion, one piece that I would love to have vintage over a current model would be a Constance in the 23 size. I'd also prefer that in box leather if the right condition or color popped up. A major reason for this is the overall proportions. The current 18 feels a tad too small and the 24 feels too bulky. The reason is that the current models have 2 compartments versus the vintage that only has 1 compartment. It just overall makes the vintage look feel so much slimmer. And I think the difference is somewhere between 3.5 inches thick for the current versions and 1.5 inches thick for the vintage model. Also, being that it's the 23 size versus now the 24, I'm not so sure how much that 1 centimeter really made, but for some reason Hermes has made that tweak and possibly to offset the 18 size versus the 24 size and enough room in between to make that difference. But to me, basically the 23 size in the slimmer shape is the most perfect. Another vintage bag that I've been looking at and had actually purchased is the white bust 30. And now I have purchased the 30 size given I do have the Birkin 30 and find the size to be quite perfect. I unfortunately had canceled that order because I had found my Kelly just one day after making that purchase. And that was something really unplanned, and I had no desire to buy both bags. Someone did eventually purchase the white bust 30 that I was interested in, and no regrets. I can't have it all. If I were to find another one down the line in good condition, then it may work out, but otherwise it's never a must for me. The look of it is so pulled back and uncommon, yet agree or disagree, but to me, it slightly resembles the Birkin. Some of you may know of the Birkin Shadow, which has no sangles closure, but an embossed design panel with just the top opened. The Shadow is so hard to come by, and bag enthusiasts seek after it to add to their collection. So in terms of value, I would say the Shadow is 4 or 5 times more than what it is in retail. So in my opinion, these somewhat obsolete Hermes designs, such as the white bust, have a lot of potential to become something very sought after. Now, if 20 years is what deems an item to be called vintage, then the Massai is also something I truly love for its unique shape and versatility. I had unboxed my vintage Massai a bunch of videos ago. I'll link that below. And once again, this is a Massai PM or 32 size, and it's a 1999 vintage model. I love how this bag just kind of hangs on the body, and it's almost like part of the outfit because it's such a slim type of bag, but yet roomy at the same time. I think at a point I mentioned that it's almost like a leather vest as well against the body. And also, I like the versatility of being able to fold this and use this as a clutch as well. In terms of color, this is Hermes' signature color called Blue Jean. And I'll come up closer a bit so that you can see the contrast white stitching that goes on all over the strap and the edges. And this is in Clemence leather, by the way. The colors for Hermes are kind of deciphered or segmented into their permanent colors, which is usually noir, étaupe, and gold. And then these signature colors, this blue jean is part of the signature color. Also, another one off the top of my head would be orange. The Hermes orange is also a signature color of theirs, similar to their boxes, basically. And then they also have what's called permanent colors as well. And those are colors that they have all across of their different items, such as wallets, perhaps shoes, or any other leather goods, including bags. And I have once had a conversation with my SA, and he had mentioned that Hermes doesn't ever discontinue colors per se. You might see it from a vintage piece, but then yet a couple years down the line, it might pop up on a piece. We never know. So that was my take on Hermes vintage pieces versus current pieces. If you'd like to hear more of my ideas and more of Hermes possible vintage pieces to look for, I would definitely be down for that as well. So moving on to pre-owned versus retail. Similar to hunting for a vintage piece, some specific items or color or leathers isn't available any longer in retail. Another would be if you want to be mindful in being a bit more green. And then of course, the most controversial, price point. You may get a bargain on a pre-loved item. And I know talking about price can be such a topic, but I'm also sure it's part of the hunt. But really, you can score the best deals when being flexible. And you might be able to find something in great condition, size, color, and hardware. It's of course unlikely that all of the above happens and you get a good price for it too, but it all depends what you prioritize. Some of the bags that I have that I would definitely have considered in the pre-loved market would be something like my garden party. Now, I did not purchase this pre-loved. I did get it through my SA in retail, and you know, I have no regrets. This is the Garden Party 30 size, and it tends to be more difficult to find this on the resale market at retail price or lower. It's usually much higher. Now that said, I didn't set out to get this bag at all or add this to my collection because of it retaining value or whatsoever. I wasn't even in the market to search for this bag, and I walked into Hermes to purchase a completely different bag, but that didn't work out. And so when my SA brought this out to present, I was really in love with it and how the size worked out for me. And I really love this 30 size for these kind of tote bags, which is essentially what made me decide on what the size I would like for my Birkin would be, which is also the 30. The Birkin obviously is a little bit thicker in depth, but they are essentially the same sizes, and I feel like these sizes fit my frame best. If I were in the market to find a 36 size or something that I just kind of wanted to drag along with me into the office or to run errands with and not have to care about too much, I very well might consider finding one in the pre-loved market, especially when I'm getting one for a better deal. Also, another bag that I would like to talk about would be the Evelyne. And here I have the Evelyne in the PM size. And just like the garden party that I went through, the mini Evelyne or the TPM size will always be the more hard to get one through retail, and it's much more expensive in the resale market as well for the mini size. That said, the PM size, which is this one here, GM size, one size up from this here, they both actually can be quite less in cost in terms of the pre-owned market. Now for the pre-loved Evelynes, it really depends once again on how you prioritize your needs, whether color is important or the size is important. I would say that unlike the other bags, such as, you know, Birkins or Kellys or Garden Party or just other bags that seemingly it can be difficult to find the heritage or the permanent colors, such as noir, etude, and also gold. It's not the case for the Evelyne, and I feel like that the majority of the time that I do see, number one, people wear it in the street, or just even every time I step into the store, I always tend to find one in the heritage colors. So those are two pieces that I absolutely would consider us hunting for in the pre-loved market. But being that both pieces, the Evelyne I purchased online, basically once it popped up in the right color, you know, I clicked on it right away and checked it out. If I were to set out to buy these bags, I would totally consider doing a little bit of research on the pre-loved market. Another bag that I actually initially went into the store to try on when the garden party happened was actually the Bleed. And I really love that it's the first zipper bag that Hermes came out with. And you know, there's a little bit of history behind it, and I do ultimately love the style of it. It's so unique, and just, you know, I also see it as a classic piece and an everyday piece at the same time. The issue that I've been having is that the 27 feels a little bit too small, and I find the handles to be a little bit strange when I'm carrying it by the strap. And then the 31 size, I really love that because it's also the Clemence leather and it tends to be a little slouchy, and I love that look. But it's on the big side. So if there was a Bleed in, say, like a, I don't know, 29 or something, I think that would work out for me. I haven't been able to find a size or color combination suitable yet. Actually, I've been totally loving the 1923 mini Bleed, and I feel like that's small enough that it makes sense with the handles kind of sticking up a bit. But, you know, that's just a personal preference, and I ultimately love all of the above, basically. But that said, I do believe that the Bleed doesn't exactly retain its value on the resale market as well. I'm not so sure why that is. I do see kind of a spike lately, and it just might be the awareness behind Hermes as a brand as a whole. But when I started searching, when I really started paying attention to the Bolide, which was maybe a year ago, year and a half ago, the resale market for the Bolide was so low that it was kind of unbelievable and comparable to the retail price. So that said, I do think that it's worth checking out the Preloved market for the Bolide, but also I've been not able to find any of the Bolides in the right color in retail, let alone the Preloved market. So it's seemingly the ones that are priced low are the ones that are less popular or a little bit more beat up, so it's condition, the color, and also the combination of possibly hardware or, a strap might be missing or something like that, and that's something that I would not like. But overall, I do think that if you're flexible enough, you can score a Bolide on the Preloved market. Now, another one that's a little bit unique is something that I saw many, many years ago before my entire, Hermes history had ever started. And this is the So Kelly bag. So basically, it is this kind of hobo look. It's meant to be just kind of slung over your shoulder, and it does have like a simple opening, but it also has kind of a semi-closure. It doesn't like close the bag fully or anything like that, but it does have sangles on the side to pull and close just like you would for a Kelly bag. I've been able to see it on the market here and there, and they do come in pretty good conditions and colors. So the conditions that I've seen so far were pretty much near new or just gently used, and at most the corners might have a little bit of wear, but not, nothing too crazy. Somehow the hardware also always seems to look pretty good. And for the So Kelly so far, I've seen brighter colors such as like the orange, which is the signature Hermes color, but also in the heritage colors. I've seen one in black, I've seen some in etude, and I've seen some in gold, and probably gold is the least one that I've seen so far. And now when it comes to sizing, I feel like that's the bit that might be a little bit more difficult, because I do tend to find the bigger sizes versus the smaller ones. And I don't quote me on this, but I believe the sizes are 22 and 26, and the 26 one tends to look a little bit more bulky. Anyway, the So Kelly bag is something that's really well priced in the pre-owned market, and I also don't really see that in retail anymore either. I don't think it's discontinued, but I do think that it's something that has kind of phased out from, just current bags or current styles. But it could be something, if you are looking for something that's a little bit easier and a hobo, kind of like the Massai here that you can just throw on, then the So Kelly might be a good option, especially in the resale market where it's significantly lower. Another bag that I recently found that I basically know nothing of is the Hermes Toolbox. And I was able to find the Toolbox 20, and I had no idea that it came in such a smaller size, because to me, I've seen the Toolbox before, but I always thought that it was, like its name, a toolbox. But essentially it looks like a little lunchbox in this 20 size, which is kind of cute if you like that kind of a style. And I was able to find this here, and like if anybody's interested in this, it's significantly lower than the retail price as well. The color is very neutral. I think this can be something of a good find if you're into the kind of more unique shapes and less standard or less common Hermes type bags. So someone quick snag this. Outside of Hermes, I would also like to show you a prized item of mine that I use quite often, and it dates back a bunch of years. I did pick this up Oh, I would say it has to be 7 or 8 years ago, and I have used it quite frequently, especially throughout the summers. It is my one and only Ferragamo piece. I do have Ferragamo shoes. I am a big Vara and Verena pumps person or flats person, and if you actually would like to see my small collection, let me know. Comment below and let me know, and I'll make a video on my shoes as well. I think it's called the Gancini or the Gancini bag. I'm not so sure how you pronounce it, but is in this neutral, almost like dark beige color, and I did pick this up pre-loved, and it was a really good steal for me. I think I paid somewhere around $500 for this. It looks like such a high-end bag, and you guys must be screaming at me saying, hey, compare it to the Kelly 28. So here it is side by side. The sizes are really comparable. They're very similar, especially width-wise. I think the proportions are slightly different, but really, really close, right? And I was mentioning before that the vintage Kelly has a less tapered side, but this Ferragamo has an even less tapered side, right? It's almost boxy. But kind of in person, I think it feels a little bit more tapered. So the handle drops seem to be fairly similar, and I really love it because basically I can get in and out like really easily here, and I just always throw it on and I, you know, make a run. Or I have this shoulder strap that is never like too long or anything like that. It's perfect. This is actually one of the most perfect straps that I've had, that, you know, I'm able to just throw on and it just hits at the hip perfectly. Even though it has this awkward handle sticking up, it doesn't seem to interrupt the look or anything like that. So I really love this bag, and it's actually really easy to get in and out of, and I can just do it by one hand. So basically just pop it open like that, and then there's two compartments inside. So this is probably the only bit that I don't love. This compartment in the middle actually gets in the way of setting things in a way where I can make more room. The compartment actually makes it build up high very quickly, just because I have to put like the narrow side down this way. I don't know if that makes sense, but so yeah, but basically it holds everything that I need on a daily basis. So this is a bag that I, you know, when I don't know, meet my friends for brunch or doing something quick and I don't want to worry too much about my handbag, this is something that I grab because it looks amazing, but at the same time it can, you know, it's a little bit more tougher than the other bags that I may have. And it's in this like Saffiano leather. If you're familiar with Prada, they do a lot of Saffiano. It's like this imprinted leather in this kind of a crosshatch pattern. And it just makes it very like, almost like Epsom, you know, very hard to scratch up or anything like that. And obviously I have it like all dirty and I have to clean it a bit, but it does take a beating well, and it still kind of looks good. So, and the hardware is quite scratched, but I think, you know, it's fine. It has just this lived-in look. This is one of my out of Hermes brand bag that I really, really love, and can be a good tip for you guys to, you know, look for if you're interested in finding a pre-loved piece like this. The last conversation that I had about this was maybe 2 years ago with a friend, and she did mention that they started selling this again. So it could be something that you can just walk into Ferragamo and ask if you are looking for a new bag. Otherwise, pre-loved, what I paid was something many years ago. I'm sure even if you do find this on the pre-loved market, it won't be at that price anymore. I'm sure you're still going to find a good deal if you find it pre-loved versus retail. So that was my video for today. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed going through my thoughts on vintage versus current and pre-owned versus retail. And despite trying to search for an item that's no longer available in retail, or being mindful to, being green. Price point is part of making that decision when you're searching for your next piece in the pre-owned market or vintage market. Please be gentle on me on these kinds of topics. Just like to keep an open dialogue with you and to discuss all sorts of different ideas and concepts. That was all for today, and I hope you will look forward to my next video. I will see you all soon. Thank you so much. Bye.